So let's talk about Anna Kepner being caught on video on November 2nd, 2025 on this Carnival Horizon cruise ship's sail away party. And I also want to talk about some fake text messages that have supposedly been released. That part is not true. The video, I believe, is real. However, the video, I believe, is real. First of all, it looks like Anna, and we know she loves to dance from her TikTok videos. We've learned she loves music. She had specially curated playlists that she would take with her. She loved to be on boats and everything. However, who knew that only 4 days after being caught on this sail away party video, she would be gone. Certainly not her grandparents who appeared in the video with her. You can kind of see them hanging back, not necessarily dancing in the down, down, do your dance that they've played at almost every wedding. Unfortunately, it's true, Anna would be gone days later. The sail away party is usually, it looks pretty hype. I don't know, I've only taken a Royal Caribbean cruise thus far, and I was hiding in the solarium with my sister chilling, It can be calmer, I guess, on the Royal Caribbean cruises based on which one you take. But a TikToker named Nick Capo 609, he caught this pretty amazing video as he was like panning through the crowd that Sunday, November 2nd, 2025 during their sail away party. And little would he know until later that he caught video of Anna Kepner. She was on the dance floor dancing to that popular Cupid Shuffle song, a song by Cupid from 2007. Something that many of us who've gone to weddings and all types of parties or whatever over the last nearly 2 decades. I'm sure you've heard it. So I've linked to Nick Capo 609, his TikTok link below. He has this description: I'm a new content creator. I love traveling. I'm also a travel agent. So please go over there to see all the original videos because it really lines up with the cruise schedule. Another thing I verified to make sure this is really legit. So it's pretty cool. You can see Anna like turning to her grandma. It looks like her grandma's wearing pink. We've heard from Barbara Kepner. We realize now, yes, her grandparents definitely went on this cruise also with Anna. They had been on a previous cruise with her as well. Her grandma's wearing the pink shirt, and Anna looks like she's smiling and sticking her tongue out. Now, I can't play the music, of course, but it's down, down, do your dance, do your dance, do your dance, down, down, we got a brand new dance. Anyway, Anna's turning around and she's like, smiling, sticking her tongue out, almost as if she's trying to encourage her grandparents to get on the floor with her, maybe, but, I'm thinking they're like, I'm sitting this one out. Anna has on this white tank top, black shorts. There appears to be like a tattoo on her right lower leg as she's doing that kick part of the song. The dance is to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. Now kick, now kick. So she's kicking. So that's the reason we see her kicking. Now walk it by yourself. Now walk it by yourself. I didn't see the walk it by yourself part because the guy is panning through the crowd. But it looks like the same tattoo on her leg that can be seen in another recent photo of Anna. She has the dark hair, so it's more recent, and she has on a nice, pretty dress. It may have been taken on the cruise. I don't know where this photo was taken. But at first I was like, wait, has Anna always had this leg tattoo? Is it something she got temporarily on vacation? Or is it a recent real tattoo? Because I didn't see it in her other cruise photos or the one where she's wearing the sparkly dress. Yeah, when she was on the boat before. I guess earlier in 2025 with her grandparents, and I was thinking unless she was wearing body makeup to cover it, but I doubt she did that. I doubt it was fake. I think the leg tattoo may have been a real one, just because I see she had looks like a real butterfly tattoo on her tummy, so she's probably a fan of tattoos. Anyway, one curious thing while I was really studying this TikToker's video, I noticed unless I missed them, I didn't see her stepbrother or her half-brother anywhere nearby. The video is panning around quickly, and it only grabs just like a few seconds of Anna. But I wanted to always see. I knew these videos would start coming out once people realized, wait a minute, I was on the same cruise ship with that girl who lost her life. And like I mentioned in previous videos, will we get to see anybody with, photos or videos that may have captured Anna in the background? I was really looking for evidence of the 16-year-old stepbrother. Was he like lurking around anywhere in the background, seething or lusting at her or anything? I didn't see that. I did see this TikToker post the next video, the next day, ominous weather that next day, Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Caught on video by the same TikToker, perhaps standing as a harbinger of eerie things to come. I've never been on a ship where it's bad weather like that, and it's kind of like, it's kind of scary just to see more waves.
Situation. And the same evening, the same storm system continues its devastating trek northeast. Sirens are going off. Yep, there's the whole right side. There's the right edge. My name is Drew. I'm ready.
Thank God our cruise we took was pretty uneventful, nice and smooth. I didn't realize cruise ships go so slowly. Cruised over to the Bahamas, Nassau, Coco Cay on my cruise, and then back to Port Canaveral. Now, Anna's cruise was different. Looks like bad weather. There's their sail away party Sunday, bad weather on Monday. And who knew, only 4 short days after she was captured on this video dancing, that she would lose her life allegedly at the hands of this 16-year-old stepbrother. And then the cruise continued on as it must. They were showing different locations, different stops on the cruise, all the way up until their last dinner that Friday night. Many of them had likely no idea an 18-year-old girl had been found that morning, Friday, November 7th. Maybe they heard someone lost their lives, of course, on the ship. We've looked at the videos of the other TikToker who was right down the hallway from Anna, and we know that she knew someone was found not alive. She knew there was an investigation that would need to happen starting that next day when the FBI could get on board that Saturday, November 8th. But did that TikToker know that only because she was right down the hall on the 8th floor from Anna? All these other cruise passengers, maybe they had no idea, of course, just how tragic and violent Anna's ending was. Now, I believe, according to that other TikToker, the female that we watched her videos, she stated in a comment that Anna was in cabin 8341. That's what we have for now. Now, if she was mistaken, of course, I will correct it and update it. I've heard all sorts of room numbers people presume Anna was in. And of course, we've seen that letter from Carnival Horizon on the station head. It's addressed to room 8367. I don't believe it was addressed necessarily to Anna's cabin room, whether that was a different family member's cabin room or not, or just another stranger nearby being told, okay, you guys got to debark, get out of your staterooms by 7 a.m. Saturday morning. There's something going on, basically. Here, we'll have breakfast for you. Take your stuff and get out, basically. We don't know who was in that stateroom. So until I know better, I'll just say she was in cabin 8341, like the TikToker wrote on TikTok, who stayed right down the hallway. And folks are already paying tribute to Anna as they board that same ship by taking photos of cabin 8341. I expect plenty more videos like these to come out from that cruise to be discovered in the wake of this tragedy. Once more people learn of her death and the tragedy, they go back and they'll probably check their cruise videos and photos and everything and realize, wow, I didn't know I had this. But this guy, the Nick Capo 609, his video is verifiable because it's obvious he was on this same cruise, the same time as Anna and her family. First of all, the cruise details and his videos match right up. The ship is indeed the Carnival Horizon. It departed, according to records, Sunday, November 2nd, 2025 from Miami around 3:30 or so p.m. What time was the sail away party? I don't know, but it does definitely look like Anna and her grandparents right there. And then the TikToker's video shows Ocho Rios, Jamaica, November 4th, dropping off supplies. So, that's another thing. They perhaps had a few more sea days than normal. Jamaica had suffered a lot of damage from the recent storm that ravaged through there. So, as I understand it, they did not stop and get off and enjoy Jamaica as one normally would. So, if they're leaving Sunday, November 2nd from Miami, it's not clear if they stopped anywhere November 3rd. I'll verify whether that was a sea day or not. And then a port where normally, you want to get off and enjoy yourself, Ocho Rios, Jamaica. No, they just dropped off supplies. I don't think the passengers debarked, as I understand it. So by the time November 5th rolled around, Grand Cayman, everyone was probably excited to get off at that port. There's one thing about cabin fever, it's a real thing. It doesn't necessarily mean, I guess, cabin fever on a ship. But if they had a lot of sea days, and depending on the activities done around the ship, what did these teens get into? My point is, did Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother just want her all to himself? Did he want to contain her in that room? Was it a balcony room? That's one thing where I'm really trying to verify. Was it 8341? Was it a balcony room? Was it an inside room? Part of me, even though the TikToker says it's 8341, if that's correct, a balcony room, yeah, that would be a little more expensive. That would be nice, whoever splurged for the balcony room. Or was it a cheaper, most likely inside room? Either way, it matters, especially based on a person's psychological conditions. I know some people never want to go on a cruise. Even my friend, he said, I would feel trapped. That's his psychology. He was like, I don't want to get on a cruise. I would feel trapped. That's how he would feel on a cruise. I didn't feel that way. There were plenty of stops. We had a balcony room. I always want a balcony room. So when you literally get cabin fever, as they call it, whether you're indoors in a cabin, in the winter, breathing recycled air for too long literally can make some people go crazy. Look at that, The Shining. Here's Johnny, that movie. It was kind of like a case of the worst cabin fever ever. I'm not giving any excuses for what this boy, who I will just call TH, likely did to Anna. I'm just trying to understand the cruise conditions. I want to see the actual cruise and the cabin and everything. Learn what happened, what was amping up. How did things reach such a crescendo that everything went wrong? So if they had all these sea days, and then finally Grand Cayman, November 5th, they're off the ship. And then the next day, November 6th, they're in Cozumel, Mexico. And all this TikToker's videos are lining up, so it's easy to verify that he was actually on the ship. November 6th, pretty much the cruise is winding down. At that point, that Thursday night, according to the valid sources, the mainstream news media, the kind we trust out of Florida, the Fox 35 News or News Nation or all these different more mainstream places we trust, what happened that Thursday, November 6th night? And was there any altercation that night or the previous night? According to what Anna's ex-boyfriend, Josh, told Inside Edition, the little half-brother, the 14-year-old, he heard some kind of ruckus and he could not get in that cabin. Now, did he mean the night of November 6th, Thursday?
He heard him yelling at her, in a harmful way, of shut the hell up and stuff like that.
And there was screaming going on.
Yes, ma'am. Something was banging around and stuff, and the chairs were getting thrown around in the room. She just didn't feel safe around him. She's scared to tell anybody because she was scared that he would do something to her.
Is that exactly when Anna lost her life? And where exactly was the ship in international waters? All this stuff is going to be really important as this case is thoroughly and further investigated. So the last dinner was Friday, November 7th. Was this another sea day as they made their way back to Miami? We know earlier that morning Anna's body was finally discovered. Ugh, how horrible that must be for everyone. I'm thinking of her family too. I know there's a lot of backlash against her family, but I'm trying to toe the line and understand exactly what happened. I want to know, can you imagine, with her being found basically declared dead by 11:17 a.m., that Friday, and then having to just stay on the ship. Her grandparents with that knowledge. Her grandma said she was screaming when she found out. Or even her dad and her stepmom just, ugh. That would make a person, I believe, feel trapped. You'd want to just get off, or you want to know what exactly happened. And even the boy, allegedly the suspect who did it, where did they put him? I have so many questions, and of course they will be forthcoming, but the ship finally returns to Miami that Saturday morning, November 8th. Now, that Thursday night, people are having their last dinner, the party's going on. Maybe they had heard something about someone losing their life on the ship, but who knows how many details all the cruise passengers got? Maybe not many. The party just went on, last dinner, and then Saturday, early, 8 a.m. or so, or even earlier, it's back in Miami. Now, while we can verify certain videos like these that are coming out now from TikTokers who just talk about their experiences on that cruise, or whether anyone like this guy captured Anna actually on video, that kind of stuff is a little bit easier to verify than other things that are coming out that are definitely fake news. For example, Anna's last November 6th text messages to her dad have not been released. That's been pretty easy to debunk. Perhaps you're one of the more than 22,000, last time I checked, viewers who watched this popular video titled Last Text from Anna Kepner plus Explosive Forensic Details Leaked. That was published way back on November 25th, 2025. Ironically, the channel is called True Crime Stories. And the description promises, stay until the end. We show you the exact text messages that Anna sent on the night of November 6th. That's a flat out lie. Unfortunately, it seems like certain people are believing it. People who maybe they don't have the time, or they don't like to do a lot of research. Some people technically only read a headline, or some people will watch a video, and if it's well done, they won't assume anyone has nefarious purposes. They'll just believe it all. And that's the problem with this video, is that it mixes in certain true facts with lies all throughout the video's description, the transcript, and everything. To me, this tactic is more dangerous than those true crime channels that completely made up those stories, entire cases out of thin air. Remember, it was claiming one case out of Colorado. YouTube thankfully shut those channels down. They were these, explosive thumbnails talking about a stepson ended the life of his dad because of an affair or whatever, crazy stuff. And the videos were well done enough that people fell for it and got tons of views. And people in Colorado, in this town, supposedly it happened in Boulder or whatever, they started calling up the real news, true crime is true, the real news. They started calling up real news stations or contacting them and saying, why aren't you guys covering this case? It's all over YouTube. And it turns out it wasn't true. So that stuff to me is easier to kind of debunk. Like, I recently just saw a video. I mean, it's just sad that people do this. It was totally fake. It was some guy got on an elevator with some woman. It claimed to be a certain apartment building or something in Cleveland. And it was so easy to debunk because you could search for all this stuff and see nothing like that ever happened. I don't know, it's sad, especially if someone is creating it under the guise of truth. Well, that's what some creators are doing with Anna Kepner's case. They're glomming onto real-life cases, and they're making up evidence in order to confuse people, to make it seem like they have something that no one else has, which is sad to me because that could direct even more hate or endanger Anna Kepner's family even more than they already are in danger, because it amps up the vitriol based on fake news. For example, this video shows screenshots from a fake website, which I don't recommend you visit, but that's their source. Instead, go to Reddit. I put a Reddit, thread down in the comments and the links, because the Redditors, of course, are smart enough to say, hey, where did all this come from? Is this true or what? That website, it's some new 75today.com website. That website is supposedly the source for this True Crime Stories YouTube video. They're saying surveillance footage reviewed by agents shows the stepbrother lingering outside the cabin door at 9:35 p.m., peering through the porthole before swiping in at 9:48 p.m., 6 minutes after the text. Totally made up. If you follow the valid news and if you literally look at the court paperwork and, we go through pains to do all this stuff to bring you the truth, if you view all that stuff, you'll know the FBI hasn't said anything. No kind of evidence like this has been released. And unfortunately, some of these places, they go through and delete their comments. So you don't see all the comments that would call it out as fake news. You only see the people reacting to it who obviously believe it. They claim no further activity from Anna's phone after 10:15 p.m. The stepbrother's device, however, lit up with a deleted search at 10:22 p.m. How to make someone quiet without noise. Not true, fake. By 11:50 p.m., he re-entered alone after a deck lounge visit per footage. The next morning at 7:45 a.m., he swiped in again alone, all while claiming later to investigators he assumed she was sleeping in. No, this is all fake. This is just as bad as people who, take cabin hallway footage from other cruise crimes or whatever, and they show some boy chasing a girl, and they try and pass it off as, this is Anna Kepner's footage. It's not good. It's one thing to demonstrably show, using AI or using actors or whatever, a reenactment of what you're trying to say, of course. I understand that, but not passing it off as truth when it's not. Because a lot of people, I see them, some people in the Facebook groups or online are like, oh, did you see the way he chased her? And it's like, no, that's fake. Normally, I would ignore stuff like this, but it's sad when stuff gets perpetuated, amps up the public, puts even more vitriol towards people, her family members, when we don't even know the full story yet. So the fake video is claiming in their description you'll get a minute-by-minute timeline from the night Anna Kepner's phone went silent, the stepbrothers' deleted searches and suspicious cabin entry times, a new court filing, group chats recovered from the ship's Wi-Fi logs. People on Reddit are like, wait, when did they recover this? Can you recover these group chats from the Wi-Fi logs on the ship? And who would have had them November 25th? I mean, obviously, only authorities. An article containing Anna's final text messages and keycard entry time. The fake video goes on to talk about Chantel Hudson, her ex-husband, Thomas. It starts off to say, yes, they're at the middle of this growing storm. It starts off with some truth. Yeah, Chantel invoked her Fifth Amendment right. Yes, Thomas Hudson, okay, they're saying he fired back with a counterfiling saying, she put the kids at risk and all this stuff, allowing them to drink underage while in international waters. But then it starts wading into territory with no evidence. It says investigators say the source of that allegation is disturbing. The stepbrother himself, who reportedly bragged about the underage drinking in group chats, later pulled from the ship's Wi-Fi logs. The FBI has released none of that info. I always try and make it clear, like, okay, this is what's valid, this is what I got from court documents, this is what we can see of their court appearance on Friday, what they actually said on the stand. Based on the stuff that's more not confirmed, like the TikToker saying Anna was in room 8341. That's still in the unconfirmed department until the FBI or authorities literally tell us what cabin she was in, if ever. The video of Anna dancing at the sail-away party pretty much will fall into the confirmed bucket, I believe. I mean, I see it often. Sometimes I'll make a video like this, find other stuff, and then eventually mainstream media catches up and then they'll say, oh yeah, here's Anna, she was caught on video. Now I guess that's what this other YouTuber is banking on, viewers believing that they have some kind of internal text messages that none of the mainstream media has yet. I seriously doubt it. They're claiming, stay tuned, like and subscribe. We have all this leaked info. You can tell their claims are fake because they're not referencing anything that can be verified with any kind of evidentiary proof. They're claiming Christopher Kepner, 41, a stoic welder who had remarried Chantel Hudson, broke his silence in a private interview with FBI agents on November 23rd. According to court documents unsealed in the ongoing custody battle. Yeah, no, there's nothing about Chris Stearns and his FBI interviews in any unsealed court documents, especially nothing like this. They're claiming, oh, Anna texted me twice. That's what he reportedly told investigators, his voice cracking under the weight of grief and guilt. It's just turned into this fan fiction. But the problem is, it's a real, true case where a real girl lost her life. I don't know, it's just sad to me. YouTube eventually, hopefully, catches up with stuff like this. This person's claiming, oh, Anna texted her dad around 8:30 saying she loved him and was excited about the Navy. And the second one was at 9:42 where she claimed her braces were hurting from dinner. So see, they're taking real elements we've heard on mainstream media. We've heard definitely the grandma saying Anna's braces were bothering her. So that part is true. But then this person is adding, oh, Anna then added, oh, feels like someone's always watching me in here. Night, Dad. The dad allegedly said, oh, I thought she was joking about the cabin being cramped. God, I wish I'd checked on her. It's really sad. So people who are believing this are like, oh, why didn't he check on her? And she sent him those texts? No. It goes on, claiming the stepbrother had deleted text and it was subpoenaed last week and all this stuff. It's claiming, oh, the stepbrother had dozens of unsolicited photos of Anna taken without her knowledge during family gatherings. No, they're just LARPing, live action role playing some crime case. It's nothing wrong with us speculating. Of course, a lot of true crimers do that. We look at the actual verified facts. Yes, Anna was on this cruise. Yes, these photos prove she was on this cruise. Videos prove she was on this cruise. Her grandmother is a witness. She was on this cruise. Her grandparents have, gone on mainstream TV and spoken about what happened, the events, not in great detail, but they've spoken about it. And then we know the dates of the cruise and the locations. And then from what we can gather from these court documents in this custody battle, Anna's stepmom, Chantel Hudson or Kepner, is going through with her ex, Thomas. We put certain things together and then, we might speculate. We might tell you guys like, oh, I wonder what happened, the night before. We've learned in court that the stepbrother, the 16-year-old, he takes certain medication for insomnia, ADHD. We saw Chantel, she got on the stand Friday. She did admit he missed 2 nights of his medication. Now, it's one thing to go speculate off of that verified information. It's another thing to make up complete lies like this other YouTuber and just mislead the public. It's saying Anna's private Instagram stories from spring 2025 show her locking her bedroom door with captions like, privacy please. Probably fake. If this person knew more about the case, they know that Anna didn't have a bedroom door. She was basically in the dining room. She had a makeshift room because when Chantel moved in with Chris Kepner, she brought her 3 kids along, and Anna, I guess, had to shift or adjust and, make room for all the other children in the home. Well, one of Chantel's, the oldest boy, he's off with his bio dad. But this person claims all this kind of obsessive stuff. The stepbrother is obsessively, followed Anna's Instagram, all the stuff that this person wouldn't know. They're claiming they have all this knowledge about the key card logs, confirming Anna going in the cabin at a certain time, and the text to her dad pinging, and the loving check-in, and the haunting 9:42 p.m. text message, which isn't real. All this alleged surveillance footage they claim was reviewed by agents that they somehow mysteriously know about, and the stepbrother's alleged deleted search, him allegedly re-entering the room at 11:50 p.m. And they're claiming Anna's journal has even been seized. Now they get the name of the school correct, but they're claiming Anna wrote all this stuff. They are even asking, oh, why did these 3 share a room? A lot of people are asking that. But they're claiming Chris said in his FBI debrief, we wanted to save money, thought it would bring them closer. Anyway, I say all that to say the signs to look out for as we go through and cover these true crime cases, how to recognize the people who are just trying to fool viewers. They don't care anything about facts. They're not like speculating what could happen. They're not doing public records requests to bring you guys the truth. They're just totally turning it into a fan fiction story, but it's based on a real victim. And it's sad. And this new 75today.com website, I ran it through ChatGPT. It's saying it appears to be a relatively new or low profile site. Of course, they can't figure out who owns it. Lack of clear ownership, the credibility and accountability of the websites are harder to verify. It raises red flags because there's a lack of that ownership. It doesn't have an editorial contact. It has sensational headlines, the domain name style, the absence of fact-checking or corroborations. You guys know I go through pains to try and remember to list all my sources, link a lot of my sources, instead of just saying, oh, court documents recently released, unsealed, without literally either showing them on the screen, in the article anywhere, linking to them. No, they just show this fake news site that I wouldn't visit because it looks like you might get a virus from it. And it's not linking to anything real. But what is real news, now that we've gotten some of that fake news out of the way, is that Anna Kepner's stepmom, Chantel Hudson, did say on the stand that a travel agent advised her to put those three amigos in the same Carnival stateroom.
As far as the minor children, what were the sleeping arrangements on this cruise?
Was in my room with my husband and his 9-year-old daughter, and then shared a room with his stepsister and stepbrother. Well, the room was directly across from ours.
What was the stepsister's name?
Anna Kepner.
And what was the stepbrother's name? And how old is?
14.
And how old was Anna?
18.
Now, who made the decision to have these three teenagers in one room in the cruise?
We had talked it over with our travel agent, and that was what was suggested.
So I know a lot of people still have, horrible feelings about Anna being trapped, I will say. An 18-year-old girl in the room with her 14-year-old half-brother. If it were just him, it would have been fine. I'm not saying it's appropriate or whatever, but the 16-year-old, if the parents had any clue of what Anna's ex-boyfriend alleged, that the 16-year-old TH in the past has bothered or scared Anna, carried around a knife allegedly, or allegedly Josh saw TH one time getting on top of Anna at 3 a.m. over FaceTime, if the parents had any hints of that being true or knowing something was amiss, yeah, that's sad. Of course, the three teenagers should not have been in that stateroom together. What we do know from Chantel's lawyer, the FBI are still waiting on testing for Anna's stepbrother. There have been certain tests already conducted, psychological and everything. I think the determination of whether federal or local charges will be laid on this boy, will they charge him as an adult? What venue is proper? All that, I believe, is forthcoming.
How long is expected to remain with the relative?
At this point, we're not sure. We're not sure what the FBI is going to do, whether he's going to be charged federally or whether they're going to turn it over to the state. My client is waiting to hear on that. They're also waiting on some testing results. They've done a bunch of psychological testing and psychiatric testing, so they're also waiting to hear about that. And so they don't know at this time how long the child is going to be at her relative's house.
Is there any expectation that he will be coming back to Titusville in the near future?
No.
And when it's valid, we will know it. We will see it. We will see it in some, potentially, if he's charged as an adult, especially, we will be able to get more proof. If he's charged as a juvenile, that might be more difficult. But once we see it on like ABC News or Court TV or all these places with better reputations, we will know it's true. And we did learn from that court hearing there are no expectations that the alleged killer, TH, will be coming back to Titusville, Florida anytime soon. That's what Chantel Kepner's lawyer said, kind of like giving the judge more info so she could determine if the little 9-year-old little girl, Chantel's little girl, is she in any type of danger from this TH? Would he be coming home anytime soon? No, he's staying with someone else.
So I am going to deny the emergency motion for temporary relief. I will prepare a written order, and I will have that order filed, I would anticipate, by Monday or Tuesday of next week. All right, that concludes the proceedings. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
But Anna Kepner's stepmom, Chantel, basically won in court on Friday. Her ex-husband will not get their youngest child removed from Chantel's home. Now, we weren't sure if Chris Kepner would show up in court on Friday, Anna's biological dad, but he did. He walked hand in hand with his wife, Chantel. But he didn't have to testify, and he did not speak to the media, not that I could find anywhere. Minors' names were redacted by Fox 35, so it was kind of hard to hear certain things, like what's going on. But we did see Thomas Hudson, that's Chantel's ex. He was testifying, and Chantel, she was the big testimony. She testified. That's Anna's stepmom. And also, I was surprised to see their oldest son, their 18-year-old son, apparently he testified too. So Chantel is already revealing all the children in her home had been unenrolled from their school due to that media attention the case is receiving. Already, of course, it's changing their lives. It's impacting Anna's step siblings, half siblings, everyone, the more attention this case gets. And that's one reason why, I don't know, I'm such a stickler for trying to get the truth out there, facts out there, because I don't know, it's sad to me when people get confused. So still, as I film this, as far as I know, Monday, December 8th, there have been no arrests made. That's what Millicent Athenson, the attorney for Chantel Kepner, said when speaking in court on Friday about Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother. They talked about Chantel being married to Thomas for about 12 years. Of course, they're divorced, but they're in this, heated battle over what's going to happen with their 3 children, especially now that Chantel took Anna Kepner, along with all these others, on the cruise. Chantel said she did speak with Thomas about, going on this cruise with their children. Not all 3 of their children went. The oldest boy lives with his dad. But Thomas, he was complaining like, she just took my kids off. She hasn't given me the time I'm supposed to have with them. Chantel did say that she let Thomas know about this cruise because she reached out to inform him of their itinerary, the cruise itinerary, and she even wanted the children's passports. To me, it sounds like she said Thomas would not give up the passports. Turns out they didn't need them anyway. I've heard that on closed loop cruises, you don't necessarily need a passport, but that's a little scary these days. I mean, back in the day, we flew to the Bahamas in 1996 with nary a passport, didn't need one, probably only needed my birth certificate, but no, these days you leave the United States, you especially want a passport. I don't care if it's a cruise or closed loop or what. Get your passports. Get the 10-year one, I suggest. Chantel spoke of Anna sharing the room with her 14-year-old half-brother and the 16-year-old alleged, murderer stepbrother. So Chantel kind of passed the blame, or I won't say passed the blame, just deferred to this travel agent who recommended the 3 teens stay in the room together. Now, see, I don't know because I didn't bring my family with me. It was just my sister and I. We didn't have to worry about, what do you do with the children? What would be great, in my opinion, perhaps, is if you can afford one of those huge, gorgeous, the luxury staterooms, if it holds 6 to 8 people or something. Anna could have had her own private space, and you're still there, even though it's like some of them are like 2 floors. Very expensive, I know, but to me that's worth it as opposed to the 3 teens are right across the hall, but they're in their own stateroom. I don't know. Obviously, this travel agent, according to Chantel, recommended it. Some people see nothing wrong with it. Some people see everything wrong with it. I believe it depends on the age and the dynamic and so many things of the children. But you don't want them having like too much freedom like that. But it says Chantel discovered Friday morning Anna passed away. She at last seen Anna Thursday night right around 6:30. The info, the verified info we've gotten from that court case. She last saw Anna right around 6:30 p.m. And then in terms of her own 16-year-old child, the boy TH, she saw him closer to 7, just a little bit before 7. He was headed back to his room. They were all headed back to their room, as far as I know.
Did they all get along?
Yeah, the three of them are like the three amigos. They're best friends.
Okay. And with regard to, I know you were questioned about him. He's not a suspect, or you haven't been advised by anyone?
Correct. He's not a suspect.
As far as you know, is the only suspect in the death of Anna, your son?
Correct.
And they were asking her the proximity of their rooms. Chantel said, you walk out my door, their door was right in front of it. So the teens were right across the hall. And Chantel said she returned to her room closer to 7:30 p.m. And she didn't check on the teens across the hall, but went to sleep. Chris didn't go check on them that she knows of. So the question is, with all that bumping and banging or whatever was happening, what night was that? When the 14-year-old couldn't get in that cabin, Anna's cabin, with TH where he was staying, did he go right back across the hall and go into Chantel and Chris's room? Did he go to his grandparents' room, which was, I think, 2 floors above, they said? Where did he go? There's so many details that still have to come out. Could she hear anything? Could Chantel or Chris hear anything if they were right across the hall? I'm trying to remember. I know I went on a different cruise line, again, Royal Caribbean. I don't necessarily remember hearing a lot from cabins right across the hall. I mean, the cabin doors, you might hear them shut. Maybe you hear people, but it depends, if you have your headphones on, if you're doing your own thing. But it is kind of sad that if Anna was having problems with her braces and, feeling pain, no one checked on her. But like her grandma said, her grandma saw her later down in the casino, so perhaps she was feeling better. But Chantel says, I never seen him leave the room. And I presume she's talking about TH, but they've, dropped a lot of names, so it's hard to know who they're talking about. But we do know TH, he's living with a relative now. And the lawyer was trying to ask whose decision was that. Chantel said it was something that his father and I mutually decided. It was something that we had talked about. So she said, not directly answering the lawyer's question about who brought the idea up first. She just said, looking out for the safety of the other children in the home. She spoke of Chris having 2 other kids. Chantel has a 3-bedroom house with an additional room downstairs, which is technically Chris's house that Chantel moved into. So she's talking about the 3 bedrooms in this house, which I presume one of them was Anna's bedroom before Chantel moved her kids in there. And this additional room downstairs, she must mean the makeshift dining room, whatever, that Anna had to sleep in and had her clothes on a rack. And, Chantel was explaining in this 3-bedroom house, the 2 youngest girls shared a room, the boys shared a room, and Anna had her own room. So that's weird. I don't know if she means Anna had her own makeshift dining room. So they get to that pivotal night, Thursday evening on the cruise. They're trying to find out, like, Chantel, what were you drinking? Chantel said she had not been drinking that Thursday. Throughout the whole cruise, she only had 2 pina coladas and 1 blue Hawaiian just earlier in the week on the cruise. Chantel says the children did not drink alcohol on the cruise. She said they're not old enough. Now, I don't know how she knows that so resolutely. There's a lot of back and forth about this. Per Fox 35, Chantel's stepmom was claiming she has seen Chantel allow underage drinking previously. Now, I think she was one of the witnesses too, so there must have been 3 witnesses allowed on each side or something. I feel like I was having a nightmare about this woman. Anyway, the stepmother, Chantel's stepmother, that is, she was kind of funny. You could tell she was getting a little pissed off at the lawyer. The lawyer was trying to ask, how do you know these children had been drinking alcohol as you've seen them, not on the cruise, but just in the past? And she's just like, they're asking her, what kind of alcohol was it? She was like, I just saw the bottle. I just know, she was almost kind of cantankerous about it.
Him that Thursday night as well?
Yes,
What time did you see him at?
closer to 7, just a little bit before 7.
What was he doing at that time?
He was headed back to his room.
Do you know whether or not he was present in the room as well?
They all were headed back to their room, as far as I know.
So where was their room in relation to your room?
Right across the hall. You walked out my door, their door was right in front of it.
They went on to ask Chantel other questions. Are you sure the other kids were not gambling? Chantel says, I'm sure the other kids were not gambling. Anna was 18, so she could gamble. I'm not so sure how Chantel knew none of the kids were drinking, though. If they made the decision to put all 3 children in their own cabin, and of course Chantel did not have eyes on them 24/7, how could she know who was drinking and who wasn't? We'll see what other kind of toxicology evidence comes out in this case. But she did say TH, her son, the 16-year-old, has ADHD. Now, during cross-exam, Chantel explained it was Chantel, her husband Chris, her in-laws, Jeff and Barbara Kepner, so those are Anna's grandparents, Anna, and then kids went on the cruise. I think it was 4 kids. Yeah, 4 kids. I think it was like 9 people, either 8 or 9 people total on the cruise. And the older Kepners, Barb and Jeff, their floor was 2 floors above Chantel. So while Chantel and Anna and Chris and them, they were right across from each other, it's like the grandparents were farther away. She was asked, was Anna given the option of staying in another room? She said all 3 of the kids were given the option to stay in the grandparents' room, and none of them wanted to stay in another room. The 3 of them are like the 3 amigos. They're best friends. And this younger boy is not a suspect. Now, obviously, at this point, there's plausible deniability, and then there's, wait a minute, are you trying to make this sound a lot better than it was? And I'm not saying she knew necessarily any of these allegations that Josh has claimed, all the designs TH had on Anna and how he allegedly harassed her and all this stuff. I'm not saying Chantel necessarily knew any of that. That's why I want to wait for evidence. Josh did say that Anna was too scared or something to tell, I guess, an adult, but Josh claims he let someone know. Now that's the part I really want to know if it's true or not, because it all depends on what you see. If you're like a stepmom with your blinders on and your rose-colored glasses and you're just so happy to be married to your new husband and in this new house and hoping everyone's blending well, yeah, you might be under the fog, the delusion that these 3 kids are getting along great. Sure, we can go on a cruise, throw those teenagers over there in the room like the travel agent suggested, and everything will be fine. That's one thing. But it's another thing if you truly know, oh, wait a minute, this 16-year-old isn't acting appropriately, and then go forth and something happened this tragically to Anna, and then claim, oh, they're like the 3 amigos. They're best friends. Well, obviously not. At this point. Anyway, we will see the results after that emergency custody hearing. We will see if any charges come to fruition against this 16-year-old, and what will they be? Florida state charges, federal charges? Chantel's lawyer said, we're not sure what the FBI is going to do. Whether he's going to be charged federally or whether they're going to turn it over to the state.
We believe, and I think we filed that in our response, that there's no emergency that exists. There was an incident on the cruise ship. The Federal Bureau of Investigations is investigating that. There have been no arrests made yet, but since my clients were advised that the was a suspect in that, after he was released from the hospital upon the return to the United States, he was placed with a relative of the mother's. And not only did that happen, but mom contacted dad, and dad signed an agreement to say that this child would be placed with a third party. thereby removing any risk of any danger to any of the other children in the home. So that has been resolved, and there's been nothing mentioned of that. Nobody's saying, I don't hear the other side saying that they participated in that in any way, whereas the father was advised and did participate. The minor child, you're going to hear testimony that she's fine, that there is no risk to her. There were abuse reports made. We have a person here from the Department of Children and Families that can attest that there's no concerns about the child remaining in the care of Chantel and Chris Kepner.
All right, thank you.
She said they're also waiting on some testing results. They've done a bunch of psychological testing and psychiatric testing, so they're also waiting to hear about that. And so they don't know at this time how long that child is going to be at her relative's house. The FBI wouldn't comment on those remarks. So that's what's valid we get from sites like Florida Today, or, especially the local sites, the real news down there sites. The FBI is like, we're not commenting on that. So that's another reason we know it's so fake, this other site claiming they have all these Wi-Fi logs and text messages and they know the ins and outs of, Chris Kepner's FBI interview. No, they don't. We know the FBI's Miami office is leading the investigation, and they have not come out publicly and said anyone is a suspect. They have not announced any charges. And the minute they do, if they do, we will be able to literally go to the FBI's, press release or the site or something and see evidence of that. But already Chantel knew her son was a suspect in Anna's death. So to get on the stand and say, oh, they were best friends, they were like the three amigos. I don't know, maybe it seemed that way to her without knowing the underlying tension going on there. So we know Anna's cause of death, manner of death, homicide by mechanical asphyxiation, but we don't quite know all the circumstances. We don't have the publicly named suspect. We don't know the details. But Chantel did admit he was diagnosed with ADHD after she separated from their dad. And if you go into their court paperwork, it's a lot more details about how that boy, TH, wanted his father, according to Chantel, to come to a counseling session. The father, Thomas, allegedly refused. So there's a lot of sad back and forth between this parenting. TH was also on medication to help with his insomnia at night. She said he skipped it for 2 days aboard the cruise. So some people were like, oh, wait a minute. Skipping 2 days, I don't know what the exact medications were, but some people are wondering, did that make him go off? Did he really need that insomnia or ADHD medicine? Should he not have skipped it? And those details, I guess, again, will come out. So they talked about Chantel's older son. He's 18. He's being named. He's an adult. He's Andrew. He lives with his dad. He did take the witness stand. He told the court he hasn't had many interactions with his siblings due to, the way his parents split, which is sad. And then he talked about that violent incident Andrew did between Chantel and Chris Kepner that took place before he began living with his dad full-time. Now, Andrew said they came and took me from school and took me to Titusville. Andrew said his mom, Chantel, asked for his phone, and then she took it and shut it off, and that's when an argument started. Andrew didn't want to go to Titusville with them, and he wanted to stay with his father in Hernando County. So Andrew wanted to stay with Thomas, Chantel's ex. Chantel and Chris are trying to take him over to Titusville. So this is when Andrew tried to get out of the car, but he was restrained by both his mother, Chantel, and his stepfather. This is the scary part a little bit. Andrew testified, I was put in a chokehold and held it against the seat. Now, if we think about the way Anna died, and of course I'm not saying Chris did anything to his daughter, don't misunderstand me, but if you think of the way Anna lost her life, and now here we have Andrew saying he was put in a chokehold. Is he saying Chris put him in a chokehold and held against the seat to keep him in the car? Now, Chantel, we've heard her version of this. Her version is Andrew tried to jump out a moving car, and that's why we held him. Okay, but Andrew is going to say the car wasn't moving. So you see, you have different stories coming through. Now, under cross-examination, Andrew denied those assertions that Chantel's lawyer is claiming he tried to jump out of a moving vehicle. Andrew said the vehicle was not moving. And he also denied that he wanted to stay in Hernando County because of a girlfriend. Now, we've seen that in previous court documents. I'll link to all these documents below. I just had to go throw them all up on Patreon. I've downloaded so many. But Chantel's version was he tried to jump out of a moving car. He just wanted to stay here with his girlfriend. Chantel is trying to make it seem like, oh, he's not trying to stay here for his dad. It's not like he likes his dad better than me. He's trying to stay here for a girlfriend. But Andrew is saying, I wasn't trying to stay in Hernando County because of my girlfriend, but he did say he visited the Kepner home regularly before that, where he had been allowed to drink alcohol as a teenager. When Thomas Hudson, Chantel's ex, hit the stand, he's the one who wanted the emergency hearing, he was saying, okay, look at what Chantel did. She's letting these kids drink alcohol. She took them all on a cruise and, Anna died. So Thomas is saying, my 9-year-old daughter might be at risk if she stays with Chantel. And Thomas claimed Chris Kepner had interfered with those child custody exchanges, physically blocking him from picking up his youngest daughter before Thanksgiving when she refused to get out of the car. Oh, it's just, I feel so bad for these children, especially the younger ones. Like all of them, I believe a child should have input as to which home, where they want to stay. All aspects should be examined. If a child is dangerous in one parent's home, I hope they never get to visit that home. Unfortunately, stuff is so convoluted. So Thomas is accusing Chris, of physically blocking him from picking up his youngest daughter before Thanksgiving. But if the youngest daughter refused to get out of the car, we have to listen to the 9-year-old. Like, you don't want the 9-year-old to be coached like, oh no, here we're dropping you off. And you don't want them to be prejudiced against any parent just because of a tit for tat between the adults. Whatever, the judge ruled. Judge Michelle Pruitt Studstill ruled, based on that evidence that's been presented today, I don't find there's an emergency that the younger daughter is in any imminent danger or risk of harm. I understand there may be some issues with regard to contempt, so there's a contempt matter scheduled for December 17th. So it'll be because, Thomas is claiming Chantel's not letting me see the kids on these scheduled court-ordered days or whatever. And then Chantel is saying the kids don't want to see him. There's all these allegations of different type of abuse. So there's a lot going on. I hope they can get to the bottom of it. You just want the children to be in the best home. I mean, ideally, you want the parents to stay married and stay happy, but of course that doesn't always happen. So now that they're divorced, ideally, if both parents were safe spaces, you want people to get an equitable amount of time. Obviously, that's not happening here. So Thomas is blaming Chantel from November 2nd through the 8th. Chantel, without my consent, took our young kids, TH and this young girl, on a cruise off in these international waters. They were under her responsibility, and during this cruise, Chantel failed to properly supervise the 16-year-old TH and also allowed TH and Anna Kepner to share a room, and Anna Kepner, 18, was found, unfortunately not alive, under the bed in this room. So we will see what happens December 17th. Thankfully, the judge did not block cameras from the courtroom, so we can see that play out. Will there be an arrest before that next hearing happens? I guess I hope so, and I hope we get some valid, actual evidence from authorities about what's going on. Watching Anna get her justice. I mean, it can be, again, as they all are, a cautionary tale. Maybe this situation would help other parents, other people trying to blend families. I mean, the thought was really nice. They were trying to make this a family tradition. Let's go on a cruise every year. I mean, that sounds great, but perhaps it can help blended families realize maybe I shouldn't put my 18-year-old daughter in the room with her half-brother, stepbrother, only known each other perhaps about a year, if that's when they met. I don't know how long ago they actually met. Not knowing each other well, and especially if there's drama and the 18-year-old is being put upon or bothered by her stepbrother. It can help other people, first of all, not try and maybe blend families too quickly with too much drama going on. I mean, there's drama between Chantel and her ex-husband and those kids, and drama between Chris Kepner, Chantel's husband, and with the ex and the kids here, and then drama Chris Kepner has had, which I still haven't even gotten into, with his original wife, Heather, with the second wife, Tabitha, now the third wife. Were they ever married, though? Heather, were they ever married? With the bio mom, I'll call her, Heather, with the second wife and the way they got together, that's a whole nother video. Tabitha, and now with Chantel, maybe the learning lesson is not blending families together too quickly, not trying to force families together too quickly, especially when there's this much drama, not subjecting children to danger. I still want to be fair, though. I want to be fair and knowing what the parents knew, not subjecting one dangerous child to another in these close quarters of a cruise ship that have more sea days than usual, and so many things. Was it an inside cabin, outside cabin? What was it? Would it have been worth it to just wait until being able to afford Anna to get her own cabin, or wait until, moving Chantel in the house with all the kids, or so many things. It can be a learning lesson. I'm not trying to stand in judgment of them. I'm just trying to think of how can this help save the next person. If TH was troubled, has he displayed any violent outbursts or hurt anyone else in the past? All these things have to come to light. If there were any signs of trouble or violence in this boy, is it the smartest thing then to put him alone with, the younger sibling, but also with Anna, who he's really lusting after? We have to see who knew what. That's the issue. It's still very complicated. And Chantel's lawyer did say from that very first hearing we got to watch that the FBI has cleared Chantel of any wrongdoing. So I'm assuming that's true. And if that's true, then I guess she's been cleared. We will wait to see what the FBI says. Let's close with Psalm 75, 6-7. No one from the east or the west or from the desert can exalt themselves. It is God who judges. He brings down one, he exalts another. Anna, I believe, has been exalted to heaven. She's with her Savior. Unexpectedly short life. What will happen with TH? Will he be brought down? Will he go to some juvie place? Will he go to a mental hospital? Will he be charged as an adult and go to one of these Florida prisons without air conditioning if found guilty in a court of law? Or if he enters a guilty plea? Or what will happen? We will stay tuned, of course, to this case and many, many others. I thank you so much for watching all this. Take care.